Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Today we're going to talk about attachment styles. I don't know if that's a term that's familiar to anyone, but it's something that is discussed, in early psych classes. If you ever took a psychology class, then most likely one of the first things you talked about was attachment styles, simply because it relates to how we attach as children. That's where we form our first attachment with our caregiver, our parent, our grandparents, anything like that. And our particular attachment style tends to follow us throughout adulthood and determines how we attach to other people within other relationships. Okay, so when we're talking about an attachment style, we're talking about how we behave in relationships based on um, how we process or how we view the bond that we have, and how we've learned to process and view bonds that we've had in the past. Like I said, from when we were babies. So there's three different types, and we're going to go into more detail about those different types today. What makes up those different types and what those types might look like within a relationship. And then we're going to talk about some different strategies to help you if the attachment style that you may have within relationships isn't the healthiest or the most supportive of you. So, like I said, an attachment is a deep emotional bond that connects one person to another. These emotional bonds can provide us with a sense of safety and trust. So, this is where we first learn, what's safe, what feels safe, who we can trust, who we learn we can't trust. It starts when we're infants with our caregivers. In parent child relationships, the parent, as the attachment figure, is the base. As the child explores the world, they understand that the person is their haven where they find comfort. So if you kind of think about a young child, and when the parent puts them down, they might move out a little bit and explore what's going around. But anytime something new is introduced or something, gives them some concern, they're going to look around and go right back to that secure base. And so that's typically going to be the parent or the caregiver in that moment. In that space, they learn, okay, this person is a safe space for me. If I feel anxious or I'm in trouble or I feel hurt, I can go there and they're going to make sure I'm okay. They begin to relate that person with meeting their needs. So interactions with available and supportive attachment figures, so parents or caregivers that are engaged and attentive to their children, is going to instill feelings of safety, trigger positive emotions like love, relief, satisfaction, or gratitude, and provide psychological resources for dealing with problems and navigating life and relationships with others. So that's what I was talking about when I said the attachments that we develop and how healthy those attachments are in our childhood are going to move forward with us and help us navigate life and relationships or others. If they're not so healthy attachments, they're not going to help us. They could actually hinder us as we navigate attachments with others. So, the types of attachments: secure, insecure. I'm sorry, let me back up. So secure is the one I just described to you, where you have a healthy relationship, parent-child relationship. The parent is attentive to the child. The child understands that parent is their safe space, and then that helps them. That releases those feel-good feelings where the child learns to trust and understands the importance, or understands that's where they can go to be comforted. And then again, that child is able to better navigate adult relationships and understand how to attach to people in a healthy way. So, an insecure attachment is going to be an attachment that is anxious, right? Where the child may not know where their parent is or be able to depend on their parent. Um, and then the next one is going to be avoidant, where the child may come across, or the parent, excuse me, may come across as aloof and disconnected. So based on that, the child learns, I cannot depend on this person. Typically a child with an avoidant attachment is going to start learning to defend themselves, or calm themselves, self-soothe, fend for themselves. So they don't tend to look around for any support or any help. They've learned that whoever their caregiver is not, who they go to in times of trouble. And then the other type is of anxious avoidant, where it's a mix of both. The child or the person doesn't really know whether I should be anxious about whether I can depend on this attachment. Are they going to come through for me? Are they going to be there when I need them? Or, you know what? I can't depend on anyone. So I'm not even going to look their direction. I'm just going to make sure I'm good by myself and meet my own needs. So I'm going to go through and break down real quickly what each attachment looks like for a child and then as an adult. So in a secure attachment, the attachment figure is attentive, responsive, sensitive, and emotionally available. So that would be the parent or the caregiver.
Sorry, Nikki. Should we be on a different slide? Should we be seeing a different slide?
What are you seeing?
We're seeing the original, the initial cover page slide.
Since the beginning?
Yes.
Okay, hold on one second. Oh yeah, I've been through several slides since then. Did it change just now?
We are seeing what is attachment.
Let me stop and go back in. What are you seeing now?
What is attachment?
That's it?
And it talks about what attachment is. Yes.
Okay, so you're seeing like people free falling out of the sky?
A deep emotional bond that connects one person.
Okay.
It's like 4 bullets. Okay.
Okay. Do you see a purple lock now?
No.
Okay. I think I'm going to have to proceed without the show. I apologize. Okay. Okay. So I was talking about secure attachments and what that caretaker or an adult would look like. So that caretaker or parent would be attentive, responsive, sensitive, and emotionally available, right? So totally engaged, aware of the child's needs, um, intentional efforts to meet the child's needs so that the child, like I said, feels safe. A child with a secure attachment understands that they are protected and provided for. They tend to have well developed social skills and can interact with other children without fear. So they play well with others. They tend to be independent and also able to explore new things because they are assured of the fact that if something pops up that's unexpected or uncomfortable, they know they can go to their attachment figure and have that comfort or have that, be made to feel at ease. So that also leads to less extreme reactions to stress because they feel safe in general, so they tend to just kind of, like I said, explore and then socially use their emotions to trouble solve, and with the understanding that they can get support or they have the support they need. They are able to Additionally, they are able to recognize distress in others, and they show empathy because they're used to being comforted and attended to. they tend to also show those same traits to other children, to other people. So that's what you're going to see from a child with a secure attachment growing up. An adult with a secure attachment, so once this person has grown into adulthood and they're bringing those skills or those learned behaviors with them into their other relationships, they're going to have good communication of their needs and feelings. They're going to be self-assured, um, self-aware, and tend to be affectionate, accepting, and able to handle or to better handle and resolve conflict. So those are the positives that come along with having a secure attachment as a child. So insecure attachments. First one being anxious. The way that attachment figure or that parent or caregiver is going to present in that relationship with that child is they're going to be inconsistent and unreliable. There's going to be a lack of boundaries and leadership, and they may not validate the child's feelings. So throughout their childhood, the child learns, I can't always depend on the person to be there. I really don't have any structure or any rules. They haven't set up any boundaries for me, or any type of leadership position where they're teaching me, or modeling good behavior and good choices and good social interactions. And they may validate or discount the child's feeling. So then the child learns from that type of anxious attachment, the anxiety. They tend to avoid others. They tend to fear abandonment, maybe clingy, hoping and wishing for that type of attachment or that type of attention. And they have difficulty managing stress and self soothing. So there's a lot of insecurity that comes along with a person who has an insecure attachment. And as an adult, that's going to be a person that's distrustful, afraid of rejection and conflict, may struggle with jealousy, and require constant reassurance, attention, and approval. Things that they did not get when they were growing up or as a child from their caregiver or their parent. So, still under the heading of insecure attachments, we have the avoidant attachments. That parent or that caregiver tends to reject the child. They are emotionally unavailable and attentive to the child's needs. So, if we go back to the last one, right? If we go back to the anxious attachment, and we think about a parent who might be experiencing, or that would be the type of attention or the way they meet their child's needs, right? Inconsistent, unreliable, lack of boundaries and leadership. We may think of someone who is overwhelmed, right? Not necessarily a bad parent, but either didn't have good parenting skills modeled for them, or could be a single parent, parent of multiple children, and does not necessarily have the support and resources to follow through every time or build those boundaries or maintain that structure. So, that's what they're passing on to their child. When we're talking about an avoidant parent or caregiver, we're talking more along the lines of someone who's neglectful or maybe even abusive. So, the treatment or the behaviors from their parent are going to be more, I guess, harsh, and not necessarily in a physical way, but just lack of attention, lack of care, lack of comfort, lack of validation, may even reject the child. That child is going to learn it very quickly. I can't depend on that person. And that's the child that's going to be um, withdrawn, tend to be withdrawn, self isolates, does not play well with others. So social skills are very low. They're going to be pretty independent because they've learned they had to be for their own, survival. But, they're going to have difficulty interacting with others in a way. They don't tend to seek or accept comfort. I think that's a big thing. They don't seek it or accept it. So they don't look for it, and they reject it from others. So, carrying those traits into adulthood, an adult with avoidant attachment, I'm sorry, I don't know if I said that out loud, but this is the avoidant attachment underneath insecure attachments. So an adult with avoidant attachment comes across as aloof or detached. When we say, I think that person is emotionally unavailable, it could be a case that that person had an avoidant, insecure attachment as a child. So they tend to avoid intimacy and commitment and are uncomfortable with emotions and conflict. So they avoid both emotions and conflict are kryptonite to them. Okay, so the last insecure attachment style is what they call disorganized, which is a combination of the anxious and the avoidant. This is going to be chaotic home environments. So a child with this type of attachment style may have been like in the system, in foster care. So it's not just that they weren't tended to, but then there's a lot of chaos and change and instability involved in their life. Um, People or whoever they're attached to, whoever their caregiver or their parent is dismissive and not responsive, you know, past anything other than giving them food and water and clothing, if if those things are met entirely. So this particular child, like I said, that may have suffered some type of long-term chaos and instability within their home environment and within those relationships with the people that are providing care for them, are fearful and avoidant children who are distant, reject physical touch and comfort, have difficulty connecting socially, and have high anxiety. So it's similar to the child in the avoidant attachment, but to the extreme. The extreme part tends to come out going through adulthood as far as emotional. This person is going to have experience a lot of emotional extremes. So they'll go up and down where they're, you know, I want you, I don't want you. I love you, I hate you. Help me, get away from me. So within that dynamic, that's the same type of energy they give to people in their adult relationships. So they're going to show contradictory behavior and inconsistent behavior patterns. This particular person with this disorganized attachment tends to be prone to high conflict relationships. The ups and downs, the highs and low is kind of their norm, and they tend to gravitate to those type of relationships. Now, does anyone have any questions about the different types? Because we're about to move on to ways we can um, work on these attachment styles.
I don't see anything in chat.
Okay. Okay, so a couple of points before we move on to how we can move toward the ideal attachment of secure, is that most people have a primary attachment style, right? But it's common to have traits from other styles. Like I kind of explained as I was going through each, stage or phase of a child to an adulthood, early parenting, childhood events and environments, and adult experiences all play a role in determining an attachment style. People with insecure attachments can become more secure by adopting new beliefs and behaviors, and that's what we're going to get into. And partners within relationships can influence each other's attachment styles based either negatively or positively. So if you have a secure attachment and your partner did not experience that, by modeling that behavior, they may learn to adjust those behaviors, those insecure or anxious attachments or attachment responses. Okay? So, how can we work toward creating secure attachments? The first step is to identify your attachment style. And you would do that by reflecting on your, behaviors through childhood and through adulthood, any patterns that you see, any trends that you may see to kind of help you say, okay, yeah, this is how I operate, or this is how I process relationships and how I react and respond within relationships. Will give you an idea of what attachment style you may, um, help you identify your attachment style. Another way is to increase your emotional awareness. by practicing identifying and expressing your emotions. The term for looking past your initial emotion to try to figure out what's deeper than that, what's my secondary emotion as opposed to my primary emotion, is emotional granularity. So that's basically practicing thinking about, okay, I'm angry. That's the first emotion that popped up, but why am I angry? Am I angry because I'm embarrassed? Am I angry because I feel humiliated? Am I angry because I'm sad? Understanding what is behind the first emotion that pops up, what the deeper emotion is, helps us to express those emotions to people within relationships so we can be clear and get an understanding of what we're feeling and what we may need. So, working on your emotional awareness and understanding exactly what you're feeling is helpful in building secure attachments or building up a secure attachment style. Within that is practicing kind, clear, and honest communication with others. Right. So, again, once we're able to pinpoint exactly what we're feeling and pinpoint exactly what we need, we have to be sure we're communicating that, not expecting people within our relationships to read our mind or necessarily anticipate what we need, but just be able to express that. Another important um, thing to do is to seek out healthy relationships. This takes us back to reflecting on our trends or our behavior patterns or our past choices with relationships, and being able to pinpoint, things that may have been red flags, things that may have been unhealthy, things that may have exhibited some of these insecure or anxious or avoidant attachment styles. Because remember, I said partners can, you know, learn from each other, learn the styles from each other, positive or negative. So reflecting on, hey, have I been in relationships with people who have anxious or avoidant or disorganized attachment style? And did I start to kind of model within our dynamic? Did I start to kind of model or did we feed off each other? So now we're both anxious or we're both disorganized. Taking a look at those past relationships and looking for those negative trends or unhealthy trends, and then seeking out relationships that are the opposite of that. And speaking of the opposite, that's one of the biggest ones. Once you've been able to identify your attachment style and you've been able to reflect on patterns of behavior in your past, um, you need to start trying to practice responding the opposite way that you typically respond. So if you typically respond from, out of jealousy, intentionally work on that within that relationship. Okay, I'm going to work on being more trusting. I'm going to work on being, more understanding. I'm going to work on communicating my needs and my feelings more than I have in the past. If you are a person with one of the avoidant or disorganized attachment styles, and people have told you, hey, I feel like I can't get through. I feel like you have a wall up. I feel like you're emotionally unavailable. So intention, the work to move toward creating more secure attachments is to intentionally say, okay, I'm going to try to share my feelings more. I'm going to try to be more empathetic or understanding of what the other person is going through. Maybe see it from their point of view. The key is to practice the opposite of what you have been doing your entire life, what you've learned basically, or what was modeled for you as a child and that you carried into adulthood. And so that's the way you work toward building secure attachments and being able to operate in that space. I think that's it. That's it. That's all I have as far as the presentation. I would love to hear any feedback or any comments, any self awareness in that space. Is anyone able to identify a particular attachment style for themselves or traits of an attachment style? Because remember, you can have traits of it.
I was, thinking about, can you actually share? I don't know if you can or not, because I know you were having trouble with the slides. Are you able to share the insecure um, slide if possible?
I'll definitely try. Let's
I
see.
was trying to memorize some of them. Um, rejects the child, or emotionally unavailable.
You can see it?
Yeah, I can see
Okay.
it. Yeah. I'm just reading it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that when I was listening to the different attachment styles, I was thinking, okay, they kind of, they connect the dots in terms of why some people are the way that they are.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes I think people don't know why they are, you know, the way that they are, and not really able to say, oh, you know what, it's because of my attachment style. So I think this is very useful for most people to be able to kind of look over um, who they are and maybe why they are who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And what was
And I
it was
don't
an
know.
anxious one as well? Was it one
So
that
we
said something
have,
about,
yes, I'm sorry. We have
there you
anxious.
go.
Yep.
I'm reading, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. And if you take like along the vein of what you were saying, Lynn, is like an adult is like, okay, why am I this way? Um, am I distrustful? Do I have a fear of rejection and conflict? Do I struggle with jealousy? Those are the things that you would reflect on in order to determine, is this my attachment style? Is this something that I've heard throughout relationships where people say, oh, you're too clingy, or I need space? Are those things that you've heard within relationships throughout your life? So I think it would be important for you to reflect on this to see if this is your style. So you can understand what could be presenting as barriers to you within relationships with others. The next one is the avoidant. The emotionally unavailable,
What was
doesn't
the
seek
next one?
or
I'm just,
accept help. And then this one is disorganized. It's a combination
okay.
of the two. Combination of anxious and avoidant. So tend to be very emotional people, up and down, thriving chaos. Love you one day, hate you the next. I need you, get away from me.
So at the end where it says prone to high conflict relationships, what does that mean again?
They seek out relationships where there's a lot of chaos. So there may be a lot of verbal, physical abuse, but there's always a lot of fighting, a lot of disagreements, and none of it's being handled in a healthy way. So they're kind of seeking out, or conflict or chaos feels normal to them because that's what they take from their childhood. So they may feel this is the way relationships are supposed to go. We're supposed to be at each other's throat. We're supposed to be throwing things. We're supposed to be fighting. Otherwise, how will I know that they love me? Because I'm fearful that they don't love me, but then I don't trust them because I can't trust anyone. So a lot of back and forth and inconsistent behavior and behavior that contradicts what they may say.
Wow, yeah, this has been very informative. I appreciate the breakdown and the insight.
You're very welcome. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I take a lot of pride in my slideshows. So a little sad that I wasn't able to show that, but hopefully that was helpful. Does anyone else have any questions or able to identify their attachment style? Okay, well, that's all I got, guys. I guess what I would end with is just, if you feel that you are um, in aligned with anything other than secure attachments, all is not lost by a long shot. It just takes you identifying it, acknowledging it, and doing the work.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. All right, thank you guys for joining us. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend.
You as well.
Bye.
Bye.